Green STEAM Team.
Hi everyone, I want you all to meet my friend Michelle the snail. Michelle, wake up! We're on camera!
Well, hello there, Jurassic Jessica. What are we doing today?
Today, we're going to talk about dirt.
Dirt? What about dirt?
About microbiology and tiny creatures that live in the soil.
I live in the dirt. Are we going to talk about me?
That's true, but don't be shellfish. But we're going to talk about tiny bacteria and worms in the soil.
I know someone who's an expert on soil and worms.
Really? Who?
He's my good friend, Sheldon. Sheldon is a master gardener and works at the Marion Oaks Public Library.
Oh yeah, our friend Petrie was telling me about their interview with him. Let's go to the dish with Petrie to see what they learned about microbiology and soil.
Hello, kids! Welcome to the Dish with Petrie, and I'm your host, Petrie. Yay! All right. Today, we will be having a special guest coming to us somewhere nice, warm, and green. Let's check the Petrie scope right now. Beep boop, beep beep boop.
Hello.
Why, it's Master Gardener Sheldon. Hello, Mr. Sheldon. Hi.
Hi, Petrie. How are you doing?
I'm good. And yourself, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Just sitting in my garden right now, enjoying the greenery and the nice sunshine, the cool breeze.
I am told you are a master gardener.
Yes, I'm a Marion County master gardener.
So what exactly is a master gardener?
Well, a master gardener is someone that knows a lot about growing and maintaining plants, managing like the bad pests, the bad bugs that'll eat your plants, fertilizing correctly, just know a lot about various aspects of gardening. And they're volunteers that share that knowledge with fellow Marion County residents to help them be successful in their gardening endeavors.
Wow! So how does one become a master gardener?
First step would be to contact your local extension. Since we're Marion County, that would be the Marion County extension. Contact them. They'll give you all the information necessary. They'll tell you a little bit about the program, how long it is, the time frame as far as when the classes will be, what's expected of you, and all that stuff. And they can give you the paperwork to fill out if you're interested. And the training usually runs around 13 weeks. And during that time, you learn a lot from just the basics to some more advanced topics about gardening. That way, that at the end of it, you'll be extremely knowledgeable on all aspects of gardening, and you can share that knowledge with the residents of Marion County and help them be successful in their gardening.
I'm wondering, what is soil and how is it different from dirt?
Well, dirt is kind of like a catch-all term for, anything dirty, including soil. If it looks like soil and it's dark and it'll cause a mess if you get it on your clothes, it's dirt, But soil is special, because it contains a lot of things that you may not think about. It contains organic matter that's like plants and other things, organic things that have decomposed. And when it's decomposed, it's in like a simple form now that the plants can use and the microbes in the soil can use. And that's an important part of soil. It also has other things in there like sand and it also has creatures in there, worms and other insects and other microorganisms, and they all work together to in the soil. That's where they live, and they'll eat the organic matter. And when they do that, what comes out is more readily available for the plant. So they break it down even further. If you have like a pile of leaves in your yard and you let it sit there for a few months, eventually it'll look like soil when you come back. It'll just be dark and rich. And what did that was the microorganisms and the other creatures that live in there. And they all play an important role in keeping your soil healthy.
Oh, I heard you say about microbes. So what are those?
Those are just the tiny things that live in the soil. Some of them so small that you can't see them with your eyes, your naked eyes. You'd need like a special device to see them, like a microscope. Yeah, some of them are really small, like like bacteria and some little nematodes that live in there. Nematodes are like tiny little worm-like creatures, but they're so small that you can't see them with your just your regular eyes. You need a microscope to even see them, but they're pretty awesome. And then there are also little bugs and worms in there, but the microbes are the tiny stuff, the stuff that you can't see. So if you picked up, like you just grabbed a handful of soil, you wouldn't see the microbes, but they're in there. They're like millions and millions of microbes just in that handful of soil. You wouldn't know that just looking at it, but they're in there, and that's what breaks down things. If you ever notice, like how does a leaf change into something else? It's the microbes. It's the microbes that do that. They essentially, you can say like they eat it. You can kind of say that they kind of eat it and turn it into something else. So it's like while they're eating it, they're breaking it down. And as it breaks down, that's what changes it into something else, like what looks like soil.
Wow. So is there like a scientific name for what you just said about things breaking down?
Decomposition. When things decompose, that's that process. And you really can't have that process without microbes of some sort. When we compost, you can make a simple compost. You can just pile up some things like some grass clippings, some leaves, some things from your kitchen, like vegetable scraps and stuff. You can put that into a pile, and over time it will break down. If you did nothing at all, it would break down, and that would require, some different types of microbes. But if you turn it and keep it moist, that's the best, because then, you'll get the really good microbes in there. They're called aerobic because they need oxygen, right? And those types of bacteria, they're the ones you want, and they'll quickly consume that stuff and break it down. And then at the end of it, you'll have some dark, rich, soil-like material. And it used to be grass clippings, leaves, vegetable scraps, apple peels, whatever. It's pretty awesome.
So decomposition helps make the soil healthy for the plants to grow better. Is that right?
Absolutely. And that's why as a gardener myself, the one thing that I use a lot of is compost. And compost is the end product of that decomposition process. It kind of has that word in it, decomposition, compost. So that's the end result of that process. Is you get that dark, rich, material that's full of nutrients and good microbes and everything. You add it to the soil, it helps rejuvenate it. It helps like build it up, make it stronger. And then the plants in turn get to grow, nice and healthy.
Wow. Nice. So you mentioned stuff about worms in the soil as well. Tell us more about that.
Well, earthworms, mainly the type of worms I'm talking about. Earthworms, they live in the soil, especially, and the healthier the soil is, the more earthworms you'll probably see. The reason being is because a healthy soil will have a high concentration of organic matter. In the forest, how it works is, let's say an oak tree that's in the forest. So it gets cold during the fall and winter time. The leaves fall off. They're on the ground. Okay. And then the spring, new leaves will form. But in the meantime, those leaves that's on the forest floor, they'll sit there. The microbes will get to work. The worms will get to work. The bugs, everything will get to work, working together to breaking that down. And as it breaks down, though the nutrients that are released, helps to save the tree. So it's like a cycle. So the leaves fall, they break down, they feed the tree, new leaves form, and it's just a process that happens over and over again. So you can kind of say like the forest makes its own compost all the time, I think, And worms play a big role in that. They eat that stuff. As the plants break down, the worms will eat that organic matter. It'll feed them, but they'll process it inside of them, and then they'll pass out, some stuff that are broken down further, and the plants can take that up, and it's even more good. It's nice. It's a cool process. That stuff is called worm casting. Worm castings, and that stuff is very nutritious for plants. That's why I keep worms myself, and so I take that process and I take it to another level by I get worms and I keep them in a bin. You can see that bin behind me. That's one of my worm bins.
You have worms with you right now? Really?
Absolutely.
Can I see them?
Yeah, I have. So I have 3 worm bins. I have the big one you see behind me. I have one down here, and I can reach and show you a worm or two. Now I keep them in like shredded cardboard and coconut fiber. But here's one right here.
What?
Yeah, and they're really active, trying to get away.
Ooh.
There's another one. Ooh, I see, it's really jumpy.
Yeah.
So in this container I have over here, I have like I think about 500 of them in there.
100?
Yeah, 500 of those nice little worms you saw there. And the other ones behind me here, I think they're about 1,000.
1,000.
Yes. And then in the other bin, I have about 1,000. So I guess I have roughly, I didn't count them. It's just like based on how much I started with. So I think I have probably almost like 2,500 to 3,000 worms. Yeah. And not everyone might be interested in worms, but yeah, you can still compost outside. Just make a compost pile and you can do that. That's fairly easy. The worms, that take a little bit more work, I guess. Because you have to watch them and make sure that everything is right. The bin's not too wet or too dry. You don't want to overfeed them. There's lots of things you want to watch for, but I like it, and I get lots of good compost from it, so I'm happy.
Yeah, maybe I should get into gardening too and raising worms and composting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That was really cool. Thank you, Master Gardener Sheldon. I really learned a lot today. Wow, I want to start a garden myself too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and I'll ask you sometime soon for pointers.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here to help whenever.
That's well, Mr. Sheldon. I learned a lot from you today. I learned about being a master gardener, about soil and gardens, and microbes, about decomposition, composting, and earthworms. Oh, yes, and I even got to see your hundreds and hundreds of earthworms. Ooh, icky, but really awesome.
Yeah, I was glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, so for now, it's bye-bye, Mr. Sheldon.
Bye, Petrie.
All right. Now, before I head over to my backyard and start a garden, let's see what Chemistry Kim and Jurassic Jessica are doing right now. To the Petri scope. Beep, 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 boop.
Thank you to both Sheldon and Petrie for that wonderful interview.
That compost stuff sounds really awesome. Do you think we could make our own?
Absolutely! We can make a compost bin for the library and everyone watching can make one for their home. Here's what you'll need to make your own compost bin. A 5-gallon bucket with a lid, a drill,
And an adult to help you.
sticks, and some items to put in your compost bin. We've taken our bucket and drilled some holes in it.
Why did we do that?
Well, if we don't let air into our compost, then mold will grow, and we definitely don't want to put that on our plants. We drilled 10 holes on top, 10 on the bottom, and 5 on each side.
Great! Now can we put our scraps in?
Not quite yet. Now that we're done with that, we'll take our sticks and wedge them in the bottom of the bucket. We're putting these in so that we can have good drainage. We don't want soggy compost. You might have to cut them to get a good fit. Now, here comes the fun part.
We get to put our scraps in?
Yes, but let's play a game first. It's called Can You Compost This? First up, a banana peel. Can you compost this, Jurassic Jessica?
I don't know. I usually throw those in the garbage, but I think maybe we can compost it. I'm going to say yes.
Great job! We absolutely can compost a banana peel. Banana peels contain phosphorus and potassium. Those are both really important nutrients for plant growth. Up next, what about this meat scrap?
Well, if you can throw a banana peel in the compost, then we can probably throw meat scraps in too.
Actually, it's not a good idea to compost meat. It gets really stinky and can attract animals to your compost pile.
Like bears?
Maybe. We don't want to risk it. What about this? I have a coffee filter and coffee grounds from my morning coffee.
I think we could compost that.
Nice job, Jurassic Jessica. Adding coffee into our compost puts nitrogen back into our soil, and plants need nitrogen to grow. What about these old newspapers? Can I compost them?
I know we can recycle them, but I don't think you can compost them.
Actually, we can put them in our compost bin, but we can't throw them in just like this. We have to shred them or rip them into tiny pieces. Now, up next, I have a whole bunch of leaves that I raked up. Can we compost these?
Yes, I know that one. Yes, we can.
Great job, Jessica. So now that we have our items in our compost bin, we want to make sure we have the proper ratio or amount of brown and green materials. Our brown materials are our newspaper, cardboard, and leaves. Our green materials are our vegetable trimmings, coffee grounds, and green leaves. To ensure that we get perfect compost, we want about 3 parts brown materials to 1 part green materials. I think we're all set. Jurassic Jessica, can you put the lid on?
Yes. Now what?
All right, now we're gonna roll our bucket around to mix the compost up inside. Great job, you'll do it just like Jurassic Jessica did, but you'll probably wanna do it outside. Every time you add scraps to your bucket, you'll roll the bucket around to mix it up. Soon you'll have your very own compost to add to the garden. Here's some compost that I made in my bin already.
That's awesome, Chemistry Kid. Thanks for being part of our Extreme STEAM team. I hope everyone had as much fun as we did today.
Next, we have an amazing book talk.
Hello everyone, we're here from the Reddit Public Library. That was so amazing how Sheldon showed how microbes are found in nature to break down organic matter into compost.
Speaking of microbes, we have a great selection of books here at the Marion County Library on what microbes are, how they're useful in making products like ice cream, cheese, and yogurt, and ways you can experiment with microbes to make things to eat.
Yeah, there's a really cool book here called Do Not Lick This Book by Aiden Ben Barak and Julian Frost. It's all about microbe men giving the reader a close-up look at the hidden world around him. He takes the reader on adventures where microbes are found on your skin, in your mouth, and on your clothes. The cool part are the close-up pictures done by the electronic microscope.
That's so cool. I have a pretty awesome book here too. This book is called Tiny Creatures, The World of Microbes by Nicola Davies and Emily Sutton. And it looks at all different microbes that inhabit the earth and the jobs that they do, like scrap food into compost, milk into yogurt, rocks into soil. These microbes are some of the smallest things on the planet, yet they have some of the biggest jobs on the planet.
Well, here's another cool book. It's called Kitchen Science Experiments. How Does Your Mold Garden Grow? By Sidipta Barnhan Quallen. And this book gives you fascinating science experiments that you can do in your kitchen with everyday products. You can make your own bacterial culture plates and then grow bacteria on them, or use yeast to blow up a balloon. You can even make your own mold garden grow, and even make ice cream. Wow.
That's awesome, but how do I get these books?
Oh, that's easy. All you need is the Marion County Public Library card. With the library card, you can go to any branch of the Marion County Public Library and check these amazing books out.
That's great. I can't wait to read these books.
Me too. You should really check these out. We can't wait to see you next week. Bye.
Bye.